ESPN host Stephen A. Smith for president. He was on ABC over the weekend where he said this about a possible presidential run. Let's watch.
I have no choice because I've had elected officials, and I'm not going to give their names, elected officials coming up to me. I've had folks who are pundits come up to me. I've had folks that got a lot of money, billionaires and others, that have talked to me about exploratory committees and things of that nature. I'm not a politician. I've never had a desire to be a politician.
The sports analyst almost threatened Democrats to step up against Trump, or else he will have to do so. Let's watch.
I would hope somebody else would step up that's more qualified than me. But if it has to come down to me, it is something I would consider. Yes, I would, because I don't mind the thought of tussling with these folks at all, on the left or the right. All of them disgust me, to be quite honest with you.
Now, many on social media did react to Smith's comments. Political commentator Matt Walsh said on X, Stephen A. Smith has no experience leading any kind of organization at any level at any point in his life. He just started caring about politics 5 seconds ago. He has spent his career shouting about basketball. The idea that he's somehow qualified to be president is total lunacy. Tell us what you really think, Matt Walsh. Former MSNBC host Keith Olbermann, a favorite of mine, wrote on X, you want to see him suddenly discover the choice? Just tell Stephen A. Smith that he'd have to give up the job and the salary to even try this, and you'll never hear him mention it again. It was pretty good, right?
It was pretty good. Democratic strategist Mike Nellis wrote on X, I've changed my thinking on Stephen A. Smith running for president. I hope it happens. It'll force the other candidates to take risks, embrace new media, and get out of their comfort zones. And if he wins, it's our own damn fault for not evolving as a party, just like the establishment Republicans.
What is your view of Stephen A. Smith, Niall?
Well, my actual overall view of Stephen A. Smith is that I don't mind the guy. I think he's a talented TV commentator. I'm not a basketball expert, so I don't know whether he's mostly right or wrong in his opinions there. But I kind of have a general fondness for him. I do think, though, in this case, it is just so, he is shouldering the burden of having to go forward with a potential presidential candidacy. He said, I have no choice but to be open to that idea. And he talks about how he's had elected officials, who he won't name, come up to him and beg him to run. So I'm pretty skeptical of this Stephen A's casting it as some selfless act that he is being prodded into by Democratic officials who've no better options than him.
Yes, I think he is interesting, and I don't think it's totally impossible that he could make some kind of bid. And, Donald Trump has shown that the realm of celebrity and entertainment can be a vehicle for a successful, set aside whether that qualifies you to actually run the government, but the skill set involved in convincing people that they should vote for you is actually somewhat similar. The skill of campaigning and being a TV presence or an entertainer, those are related skills. So it is not beyond the pale to me, especially at a time where Democrats, they don't really seem to have, the options are not so appealing and so obvious. I think he could do something. Now, he runs up against the problem that the reality at this moment is that Democratic voters, especially if we're talking about in the primary level or the most serious people at the point at which you're picking the candidate, are tend to be affluent, elite, highly educated, partisan Democratic people who want an established political name. They want adherence to progressive ideals. They want a history in this. I think they're not as swayed by celebrity as as the kind of working class voters who are more likely to watch TV or watch sports or even know who Stephen A. Smith is. The people at the beginning of the process will be the people least inclined to take him seriously of all. Yep. That doesn't mean he can't do it, though. It was the same thing for Donald Trump. He just totally remade the party and the voter base in his image. It can be done. I'm not sure Stephen A. Smith is as totally ubiquitous a celebrity as Donald Trump was at the time he decided. Donald Trump had been on everyone's radars for 20 years. Had been in cameos in movies and they had products with his name on it. Stephen Smith doesn't have anything approaching that, but it is not beyond the realm of the possible to me that he makes some kind of bid.
It is possible that he makes some kind of bid. I think I'd have a couple of reservations. One is we don't really know what he believes all that
Yeah, we
much.
come up with that later.
Well,
That's a secondary concern. We didn't know what Trump really believed.
He'll weigh in.
We still don't.
Like Stephen A is critical of the tariffs and things like that, but like there isn't really a track record of believing anything at all. But the other thing is I simply think there's a very large suspicion that this is a self-promotional effort. Now, yes, that was a suspicion with Trump as well, but this seems primarily to me generated to put Stephen A's name in the headlines, to get people talking about him, as we are doing, and to sort of up his profile from already pretty lofty heights even further by sparking political intrigue when I'm pretty skeptical he's really going to go for it.
I think a more likely or better positioned person to succeed, given it's the Democratic base, who, as I described, is a little bit more affluent, elite, highly educated, would be like Mark Cuban, who has both the kind of celebrity appeal from being on Shark Tank, and even in that, he's sometimes combative and has they fight, they have the reality TV aspect in that show. I really do. I quite like Shark Tank, actually. But then also he's a gazillionaire and established business acumen, and has now become somewhat involved, was kind of a spokesperson for Democratic politics, and is not an off-puttingly liberal or left or progressive person. Now, obviously, he'd have problems with like the Bernie base, that he is the very class of person that Democratic Socialists want to eliminate as a billionaire. But I could see him making a splash if he decided to. I don't know that he is going to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's worth underlining how much of an aberration Trump was as the celebrity who then did go all the way. That's quite difficult in American politics. And I mean, Ronald Reagan had a much slower transition, it seems to me, to being a political figure. Yes, he'd been a Hollywood actor, but then of course he'd been governor of California, and people had become accustomed to seeing him really in political terms well before he became president. There is often speculation, I mean, going back a few years, Oprah Winfrey was a name that was often mentioned. I think she is enormously great TV talent. I'm just never sure that she really had much appetite for elected office, and I'm not wholly convinced she would have won even if she had run. So, I think she had a better chance than Stephen A. Smith does of becoming elected president. But I thought Donald Trump had no chance of ever being elected president or even being the Republican nominee, Robby. So there we are.
And he became president twice. 3 times, depending on who you ask.
Just the twice. We don't need to be propagating.
I don't want to be taken down by YouTube. So to clarify, it's just the twice. Oh, that does it for us today on Rising. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss any content. And for those of you who like to listen while on the go, we're now available anywhere you can consume podcasts, and we'll see you back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.